History is filled with moments of unimaginable pain and suffering. But some stories stand out, stories that seem too brutal, too tragic to comprehend. One such story is that of a man who, while burning alive, uttered words that would forever be etched in history. It's a story of defiance, courage, and the human spirit as ability to hold on to dignity even in the face of certain death. This is the tale of Giordano Bruno, the philosopher and heretic, whose final moments would become a haunting symbol of intellectual freedom. Born in 1548 in Nola, Italy, Bruno was a man ahead of his time. He was a monk, but not one who adhered to the strict dogma of the Church. Instead, Bruno embraced ideas that went against the very fabric of the Catholic Church's teachings. He explored concepts of the universe, the nature of existence, and the idea that the earth was not the center of the universe. His beliefs challenged the prevailing views of the time, views that were firmly rooted in religious doctrine. Bruno's rejection of conventional religious teachings, his belief in an infinite universe, and his controversial ideas about God and the cosmos led him down a path of persecution. He was branded a heretic, and his journey took him from Italy to France, then to England, and finally to the heart of the Inquisition in Rome. The Catholic Church, at the height of its power during the Counter-Reformation, saw Bruno as a dangerous threat to the very foundations of its authority. Bruno's trial before the Roman Inquisition was an agonizing ordeal. He was accused of heresy, blasphemy, and denying the divinity of Christ. But what truly sealed his fate was his unwavering refusal to recant his beliefs. He was given multiple opportunities to save himself, to deny his teachings and return to the Church's fold. Yet, Bruno remained steadfast. He didn't simply reject the authority of the Church. He rejected the entire framework of the religious and political power structures that sought to control knowledge, thought, and freedom of expression. On February 17, 1600, after years of torture and imprisonment, Bruno was sentenced to death. His punishment was one of the most horrific. He was to be burned alive at the stake. This cruel method of execution was reserved for those who were considered enemies of the faith, a fate designed to make a public spectacle of their punishment and serve as a warning to others. As Bruno was bound to the stake in the Campo di Fiori Square in Rome, the crowd gathered to witness the horrific spectacle. The flames were lit, and the smoke began to rise. Yet, in those final moments before the fire consumed him, Bruno did something that would forever immortalize him in history. He spoke. What did he say while burning alive? According to witnesses, Bruno's last words were not those of fear, regret, or pleading for mercy. Instead, he uttered a powerful defiance. He faced the flames and rejected the very authority that had condemned him. Maybe you who are burning me will end up being burned by the truth one day, he is said to have declared, his voice unwavering. It was a statement that transcended the pain and torment of his execution, one that captured his belief in the triumph of knowledge, truth, and freedom over the oppressive forces of dogma and tyranny. Bruno's final words are often interpreted as an expression of his unyielding belief in the power of reason, science, and individual thought. He had spent his life questioning the accepted narratives of the world and the universe, and even in his last moments, he refused to submit to the oppressive forces that sought to extinguish his ideas. Bruno knew that his death would not be the end of his ideas. Rather, it would spark a fire of intellectual awakening that would spread across the centuries. Despite the horrific nature of his execution, Giordano Bruno became a martyr for the cause of intellectual freedom. His death was a turning point in the history of science and philosophy, and it laid the groundwork for the Enlightenment that would follow. Bruno's ideas about the infinite universe, the nature of reality, and the importance of individual thought were not silenced by the flames. They were carried on by those who would continue to challenge the status quo. The horrific execution of Giordano Bruno was not just the end of a man's life. It was the moment a new era of intellectual freedom began to take root. Though his body was consumed by the flames in the Campo di Fiori Square, Bruno's ideas and his sacrifice for truth and knowledge would resonate long after his death. His defiance in the face of death and his final words, "Maybe you who are burning me will end up being burned by the truth one day," were more than just the musings of a martyr. They were a declaration that truth could not be silenced. Bruno's death left a lasting scar on the Catholic Church's authority, a symbol of the Church's efforts to suppress not just religious dissent, but the very spirit of scientific inquiry. His execution came at a time when the Church wielded immense power over both the spiritual and intellectual lives of Europe. The very notion of the Earth being just one planet in a vast infinite universe was a direct challenge to the Church's geocentric model, which placed Earth at the center of God's creation. Bruno's advocacy for a heliocentric universe, the idea that the Earth revolved around the Sun, was considered heretical because it directly contradicted the Church's teachings. But his beliefs extended far beyond astronomy. Bruno's philosophy embraced the idea of an infinite universe with countless stars and planets, a radically new understanding of the cosmos that laid the foundation for modern science. His ideas were not only about the stars above, but about the potential of human intellect to explore, discover, and understand the vastness of creation. He believed that the universe was not a static entity, but an ever-expanding, dynamic force. Though Bruno was burned alive, it would be his ideas, not his death, that would ignite the flames of scientific progress. His execution came at a time when a new wave of thinkers was beginning to challenge established authority. The Renaissance had brought forth a revolution in art, philosophy, and science, and while Bruno's death seemed to extinguish one voice, it simultaneously stoked the fire of many others. Over the centuries, his ideas would influence the thinkers of the Enlightenment, including those who would lay the groundwork for modern physics and astronomy. In the years following Bruno's death, the world began to slowly move away from the theological confines that had once dictated the course of knowledge. The Copernican revolution, which had already begun to shake the foundations of the Church's understanding of the cosmos, gained momentum. Thinkers like Galileo Galilei, who was later persecuted by the Church for advocating the heliocentric model, owed much to Bruno's ideas. Galileo, in fact, referred to Bruno as a martyr for the truth. As the centuries passed, the memory of Giordano Bruno slowly gained prominence. His ideas, suppressed during his lifetime, began to be revisited by scholars, and he became a symbol of intellectual freedom and resistance against dogma. His legacy became intertwined with the rise of modern science and the eventual acceptance of a heliocentric model of the solar system. The Church, which had once condemned him to death, later removed its ban on his works, though not until much later centuries after his death. Today, Giordano Bruno is recognized as one of the most important figures in the history of science and philosophy. His willingness to question established beliefs, his commitment to truth, and his ultimate sacrifice for intellectual freedom make him a hero in the pantheon of scientific martyrs. His legacy continues to inspire those who fight against censorship, oppression, and the stifling of knowledge. In the end, what Bruno said while burning alive became prophetic. The truth, as he predicted, did indeed burn through the centuries, leaving behind a trail of ideas that would alter the course of human history. His defiance and his final words resonate as a reminder of the power of ideas and the relentless pursuit of truth, no matter the cost. Giordano Bruno's legacy is a beacon for all those who stand for knowledge, freedom, and intellectual discovery.